Just want to say thank you for being here. Obviously, when we did this 2 years ago and now again today, it's hard to know who's going to show up, who's going to try to get the information later on. But we feel, I think the thing that led to this 2 years ago was an effort to try to communicate clearly, to be transparent with our membership. I think it's difficult at times to convey some of the things that are happening behind the scenes, some of the things that we're endeavoring to do in an email. I'm sure you all get enough emails that you don't need one more of us kind of explaining that. And so the goal is to give a scope of where we're at, who we are. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, but some new ones as well. And so as we progress kind of an agenda here, we're going to kind of circle back with a little bit of who we are. 2 years ago, I outlined a strategic plan with some kind of 4 specific initiatives, and so we're going to give an update as it relates to those categories, and then I'm going to talk about the age group change, which is coming, and hopefully explain that a little bit. So to start out, I think it's important, and a lot of people don't realize just our history a little, and I want to emphasize a couple elements. The first one, and I'm not going to read through the whole thing, you can find this on our website, is that the club was actually started playing competitive soccer and formal soccer in 1969. So it's been around for a really long time. It's actually even older than our governing body, Eastern Pennsylvania Youth Soccer. But 1971, which is important, is when we first started using TCHS, and so we've been at those fields for a very long time. And then 1982, which is when we started with University of Valley Forge, and around that time at Charlestown Park. And so the club's been around for a long time. I think it's an important facet for people to understand, and those relationships to the fields we use have been around for a while as well. As we move on here, I think trying to give a scope of our mission of who we are. Again, this is a little bit of why we're doing what we're doing. I did my dissertation on this, so I'll try to give you the condensed version. These are all benefits of youth sports and are the motivator. We feel that it's really important that soccer, and youth soccer in particular, is affordable, accessible, that kids can tap into these things. There's the obvious benefits of the physical, which is in the top left, but especially more recently, a lot of research around the social health, the interpersonal skills, the academic success, mentally, the social connections. Around 50% of kids are quitting team sports by middle school age, and so we're going to tie in some of those things as we progress. I want to highlight next our mission statement and just a couple pieces here. PASC is committed to building community. That's a really important one that we'll tie in as we go. Providing healthy, enjoyable, and competitive soccer experience. And so, again, that ties into the ideas of what we want youth sports to be about, the benefits that we want families or kids to derive. On the next slide, we break down 2 vision statements here. I'm going to kind of try to keep moving through this information. It's available on the website. But idea being, we've got 2 main programs. There's a variety of ancillary programs as well. But same ideas carried through into these programs. And one of the things that's a distinctive that I hope or aspire to with our club is we have 2 kind of columns, so to speak, pillars, where a kid could move through. That's rec and travel, and we don't want one to be more important than the other. If a family chooses to stay in rec all the way through, that's a really great thing, and we want it to be a tremendous experience where they have fun, they make friends, that they get better, and they enjoy soccer. And the same exact thing is true on the competitive side. Obviously, the focus in some of the environment we endeavor to create is a little bit different in terms of our competitive programming, but similar carrying of that mission statement into either of those 2 programs, regardless of the experience. Next slide here talks about our board. So this is a recent picture of our board. We are governed by a 10-member board at the moment, each with some kind of defined role, some that kind of float and fill in different tasks along the way. Just to highlight a couple pieces here, Mike Carney, who's here in the front row, was voted in a year ago as the board president, replacing Marty McNamee, whose term ended after I think 5 years or so. Adam and Keith are in a contest to see who can be on the board the longest. And so they're both up here as well. Matt actually, I think 2 years ago after this event, came on board as our board treasurer. And then I believe almost everyone else, Jeff has been on for a little bit longer, but JT, Mike McGee, and Evan, Jeff Miller, and Brian are all were voted in within the last year or so. And so we have quite a representation. Those individuals represent a variety of ages within the club, a variety of different programs in the club, but give leadership, scope, and some focus in terms of our strategic vision and how we want to move forward. Next slide is my background. So it's kind of crazy in 2 weeks. I'm coming up on 6 years at the club. My background, I've been in a variety of leadership roles within youth soccer clubs. My background started as a teacher. Since the last membership address, I completed my A license. I completed a PhD in organizational leadership, where my research was around essentially the governance of youth sports, youth soccer clubs, and have also started into being an educator for U.S. Soccer, teaching the grassroots and the D-license courses for that. I want to highlight here, we're going to kind of the next couple slides break down a little bit of our rec program and our travel program. These are a couple key individuals here on the screen. As you can see, it takes a village to run the rec program. On the right, you can see all of our age group coordinators that volunteer their time to oversee different groups. On the left, Adam has been the director of the rec program for, I don't know, a very long time. Colleen Reddington's getting involved this spring, so we just added her to our staff as an operations manager. A large portion of her role will be helping and running our rec program, especially to kind of support Adam and to hopefully take it over going forward. And Jeff Miller stepped in for Ron Warman just in the last year, helping with our older teams in particular. Next slide highlights just some of our participants here. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but you can even just see from where the blue gets. The numbers have been quite high in our rec program over the last couple years. One of the crazy things is that every year we move players from our rec program into our travel program. And as you can see, our rec numbers pretty much stay the same. More kids come out, more kids from the community's growing, our rec program's growing. And so we'll see if we're right around the 770 for the last several seasons in a row, which again is a lot of kids. We estimate it's around 1,100 or so annually, different kids, because some play in the fall, some play in the spring. So quite a few kids from the community getting to participate within our rec program. Next slide highlights some of our kind of key successes, some elements that we're really proud of that have happened over the last couple years within the rec program. Top 140 volunteer coaches, right? So those are individuals that commit time to come out and run the programming. Again, it takes a lot of coaches. I would say this as a point of emphasis. One of the things that I feel that we've been really intentional to do is to try to reduce some of the barriers for a coach to come out and to participate and to make it so that we can have as many kids as possible within our rec program. That includes equipment, facilities, those kind of things. But this volunteer coach part's just so crucial. For the last couple years, there's been scenarios where we've had the conversation like, man, we're actually close to, we could maybe get more kids involved, but we don't have enough coaches. And that's even after 140 of them. And so if you're in the room and you don't coach for rec, maybe consider it, or you know a neighbor that really should. It helps us out and helps provide soccer programming within our rec program. Second thing here is this year, for the first time ever, we believe, we connected rec from U4 all the way through U19. It's the first time as a club we've had U19 rec soccer, and so at a recreational level, kids have been able to continue playing all the way until they graduate from high school, which is a really great thing. We've been able to, based on the numbers, separate boys and girls into older ages. It was something even when I started, I think U8 or U10 was the highest age that we were able to do it. We found that it's really enhanced their experience, and so the numbers have grown and moved into the higher ages. Junior Ref program is a program that has been initiated for quite some time now, but we've elevated with a guy named Joe Sakal, who actually runs ref training programs and is a referee who comes out and trains our middle school and high school kids to run and to referee our rec program. And so it's a great way for them to start to maybe make a little money, although I've heard that most of the money just goes into the snack shack, but by the time they leave Charlestown Park. But a chance for them to get a taste of what it's like to be a referee and maybe consider that as a career path going forward. Already mentioned the total players, already mentioned Colleen. And then this year we've kind of reinstated our winter rec program. We have around 100 kids, Pee-wee through oldest is U10 that are, U12 that are playing winter rec programming right now, which is a great way for them to get to play throughout the year as well. On to our travel program. Again, you can see from the graph there's been pretty significant growth. When I started at the club in 2020, we had 16 travel teams. We now have 26. Even just 2 years ago when we did this membership address, we had 19 and we're at 26. That, again, is carrying all the way through. We're back to girls. We have girls teams from U9 all the way through U14. Boys teams U8 all the way through U19. And so there's been a lot of growth in the numbers within our travel program as well. Some elements to highlight here on the next slide is just again the number of individuals that are involved to help us run that programming. We'll talk about Andreas a little bit more later. But basically the way we have it set up is I'm now in an executive director position. Andreas is underneath of me as a technical director, kind of overseeing primarily the travel program, but he's been involved on the rec side as well. The majority of our teams are what we call Zone 1, so that's 7v7 and 9v9 teams, and so Trevor has a lead role in overseeing and assisting with programming there. And then if you're in this room at some point, you've probably received an email from Sabina, who's our club admin, who helps with risk management and the website and those kind of things. Bottom, I'm not going to tell you all the teams that they coach, but we're up to 15 coaches on our coaching staff that make it all work to coach the 26 teams. And so, which is great, some really, really high-level individuals, some that played at a high level, and some really awesome people that we feel are doing a great job investing into the kids within our competitive programming. As we shift here, the goal in the next couple slides is to highlight, again, kind of circling back to the strategic plan that was outlined 2 years ago. If you jump to the next slide, these were the 4 pillars. So player development, facilities, sponsorship, fundraising, and community involvement. By the way, this picture was taken a couple days ago by Adam, and so I don't know if it makes me long for warmer days at the fields instead of the way it is right now. But these were the things that we highlighted 2 years ago. And so we're going to break them down a little bit to kind of share some of the progress that we've made in each of those categories. So starting here with player development, the couple key pieces. On the next slide, we hired Coach Andreas. I went in the wrong order. I think this is important to highlight. I say this often to parents. We believe that there are 4 key parts of player development. These are kind of 4 facets that influence the development that a player makes, and this is true in any sport, in any environment, rec, competitive, whatever. First is obviously the coaching or instruction that they're receiving, right? And so we'll talk about that more. Then it's the environment that's created by their peers. This one we have a little bit less control over. We can't control exactly who shows up at tryouts or who is on the rec team or those kind of things, but it's important who they're playing against on a day-to-day basis in training. The matches and the level of the competition, so this could be the leagues, tournaments, et cetera, that they're playing in, and then themselves, right? So their mentality, their motivation, the work they put in, their individual skill, those kind of things. So our goal to grow in terms of player development comes down to a strategy to maximize these elements. So one of the things that we did was almost a year ago, on the next slide, hired Andreas. Andreas and I actually met at a coaching course a number of years ago. He has family that lives in Downingtown. He was living in Oklahoma as a director of a club there at the time. Reached out that he was interested in moving back into the area. We kind of got talking, and at first I was like, well, have you reached out to this club, this club, this club? And he was like, no, I'd like to work with you. I have loved what I've heard about the club. Would Phoenixville be interested in hiring me? And so we were able to bring him on last year around March. And so it's already elevated. A lot of the things on the next couple slides really speak to some of his influence and roles that he's been able to step into already, and obviously coaching some of our teams as well. So starting with coaching education, right? So the first of the player development facets was the instruction that our coaches are providing. And so one of the goals that we have is how can we enhance, right, that instruction that happens. There's a couple of things that we've done. I'm going to start with the middle one of the recreational coaches. Picture here is an image of what we do at the beginning of every rec season. And so we have written a curriculum for our rec coaches to follow. The goal being that if you volunteer to be a rec coach, we hand you the activities to do. You don't have to be Googling it, stressed out the night before. We hopefully equip you with a little bit more success. And then at the beginning of every season, we run a little bit of a training and kind of walk through a couple of those sessions and session plans to set you up for success. The other part here in terms of our competitive program and travel staff, we meet every month, and so sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's on Zoom. We just did one actually over at Renaissance last month and did a model training session, and the coaches jumped in and we were kind of showing some ways to teach some technical skills. And so is an emphasis for us in trying to elevate our competitive coaching staff. And then I'll talk more about the USSF courses here momentarily. So if you could jump to the next slide. So this is our, I guess let me start with this. Within soccer, which is different than other sports, there's a variety of ways that you can educate yourself. So just like going on to taking a master's, or getting a master's degree or an MBA or something like that, there are specialized courses to help teach and equip coaches to coach at higher levels and to develop themselves. So, which is what I referenced earlier with the A license, which is the highest of that, which I completed a couple years ago. What we've started trying to do is to make coaching education accessible for our coaches, and so we've started hosting courses as well as equipping our coaching staff that we reimburse them if they go on and complete coaching licenses. And so this is some of the just kind of data over the last couple years. In the last 2 years, we've hosted 7 grassroots coaching courses, and so that's some of our own coaches, that's coaches from other local clubs or other communities can come out, but we've been the host, and it's made it really accessible for 30, not 30 different coaches, but 30 licenses have been achieved by different coaches coming out to those grassroots courses. Nakeem achieved his D license last year. Trevor and Claudio have both done their C license in the last 2 years. The Club Technical Lead is a course that's offered by US Soccer, which is all around club curriculum and education and coach training and those kind of things. Andreas did it this year. I did it last year. And then, as I referenced before, I've been more involved in the coach educator side of things, actually running the courses for US Soccer and EPYSA. I highlight all that to say there's clearly been an investment of us trying to equip our coaches. One of the things that's a reality is that the experience of all of you in this room or your child is largely dependent on that coach, right? And so it's really critical that we not only bring in the right individuals that match the character that we want, the values that we want, the hopefully background that we want, but that we also can bring them along and that they can grow here and be a part of our growth. And that's true of us as leadership as well. And then this summer, we're finalizing details to host a D-license course to continue that pathway as well. If we keep going here on to the next, this is a scope. See, Trev, that was the picture outside of Connor. This is a little bit of a scope of our curriculum, and so what we've tried to do is make a little bit more consistency with the experience that we have. One of the things I initiated 3 years ago was I was walking around the club and felt there's not really there's not really a Phoenixville way to play, right? This team's kind of playing this way. This team, the coach is saying this. It's just a little inconsistent, and you might say, well, what's the big deal? What does it really matter? Well, when Coach Trevor coaches a team to U12 and then hands them off to me at U13, it's in the best interest of those players to have had some similar language, ideas, concepts, skills that have been developed so that I can take them and move them into the next phase along their development, right? And so several years ago, we started with, and I'm going to show you how it has evolved, we started with what we call a game model, kind of how we want to play. And part of that has been in dialing into this curriculum. So it connects back to that holistic player development. What is the experience that we can try to, in some way, almost guarantee that players have, that they get what they need at those respective ages and stages of their development? So I already talked about the recreational program, but obviously the goal, still some skill development, but having fun. And then travel programming, we've elevated, which I'll show you here on the next slide. And so this is, and obviously the intent is less so that you can read every single line, but just to kind of get a scope. This has been an initiative of Coach Andreas this fall in particular, and it's carried over into the winter, to take, basically, to take the way we want to play, which we refer to as purposeful possession and team defending, break it down into what we refer to as sub-principles. And the challenge being, and I'll give you this example, several years ago when I was going through my A license, I did an analysis of all the sessions I ran through a spring, and what was the focus, right? What part of the field, was it attacking, defending, et cetera? And the challenge is, right, you naturally gravitate to more attacking training sessions, but then are we ensuring that the kids get every part that they need? Are we overlooking whole chunks of the way the game is played that is ultimately a deficit for those kids as they develop, because now they haven't really got whatever it is, defending in the defensive third, because we've been so focused on attacking. And so we've broken it down to specific within a week, an attacking session, a defending session. Here's some of the language we want you to use. Here's some of the ideas we want you to teach. You create the session. You have autonomy to adjust it to the needs of your players. But here's what we want you to teach so that we can make sure that you've developed fully and are prepared for the next stage and to maximize your potential as a player going forward. The other part here on the next slide shows some of our technical benchmarks. Again, the intent is not for you to read the whole thing, but we've looked at every age group. This is just a sample of U8 to U10 to say these are the technical skills that we feel are really critical for players to be proficient with going forward. Now, are we not going to let them into U11, or a kid that comes in at U11, fine, we're just playing catch up a little bit. But as it relates to, and this was our focus of our session, model session that we did last week or last month with the coaching staff, is trying to maximize the winter in particular for skill development, especially emphasizing some of these components to make sure that they are proficient, again, holistically in all the needs technically as they grow and develop. So we can move on here to the next slide. So we talked about coach education, right? We talked about that as one of the facets of player development. The other one that I want to highlight here is leagues, competitions, those kind of things. And on the slide, you'll see logos from the 3 different leagues that our competitive teams participate in at this time. So our 2015 boys was the first team playing Acela this fall. Predominantly it's Central League, which is where all of our younger teams start, and is more of a localized kind of regional league. And then EDP is kind of our next step above that. I would just want to kind of highlight a couple elements of that get asked of me often, and I think are worth explaining and expressing. one of the goals, which can be really difficult because it's a little bit of a moving target, is to make sure that we find this balance between challenge and success. And that can be really difficult for each individual team because we don't want them to go and go 8-0 and have a plus 60 goal differential, right? That doesn't help them. But we also definitely don't want the opposite to happen either. And so the league component is a really important piece because it represents probably half or the vast majority of the games that they will play within a given season. And so it's really critical that we get that balance right. Traditionally, Central League has given a really great pathway to start and to do that. And in most age groups, particularly younger, there are 4, 5, 6 tiers or levels. So a team could get promoted and continue to find more challenge, and then we would move them into EDP. This year, for the first time, we had a team, the 2012 boys, that are progressing towards the top of EDP as well. And even just for this spring, I think a number of our other teams, the 2014 boys, are moving into EDP for the first time. 13s, 11s, 10s are all moving up in divisions within EDP as well. And so it does represent kind of a pathway into higher level opportunities. The other thing that's really important to emphasize is all 3 of these leagues are a team-by-team basis. So we could have whatever. We could have the U11 boys in Acela, whereas the U10 boys can be in Central League, and it allows us to kind of customize to the individual needs. The same is true on the girls' side as well. We have girls' teams playing in EDP and Central League, and we can kind of customize to their individual needs. One of the things that we've had multiple conversations regarding as a technical staff and as a board is and some of you in this room have probably seen or experienced this, the league dynamic is shifting, and it's making it more difficult for smaller leagues like these to be as viable or offer the higher levels. And so there's a number of other leagues that you've probably maybe heard of, or if you have a younger team, maybe you haven't, but MLS Next, ECNL, NAL, every acronym that you could consider is probably out there as a name for a league, unfortunately. And it's really difficult to navigate which is better, which is worse. But the challenge with all of them is that it's a club basis. So we would be taking all of our, let's say, U13 to U18 boys teams into that league. We're committing all 6 of them for that respective year into that level, into that whatever that means, travel distance, all of those components. And so it is something that we're actively exploring and should know a little bit more in the next couple of months. But even just last month, another announcement was made, kind of shifting the dynamics of some of these leagues. And so I would just say this, it's something that we recognize and value as really important to player development. It's something that we're open to continuing to explore, but it's also something that we're trying to navigate to make sure it meets our needs across our 26 teams. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Again, not a whole lot to highlight here, but just the individual part. One of the challenges within running a soccer club, right, is that we are trying to improve individuals, right? All of you are in this room because you care about the experience of one or more individuals from your family that are participating in the club, but we're doing it within a team context. And so it makes it difficult because as a coach, I'm coming in, or as a director, I'm coming in, and how do I meet the needs of the team? How do I ensure that the team improves? But how do I also make sure that every individual player on that team is having a good experience, is developing, and we're meeting their needs as well? So we've done more skill clinics in the last year than ever before. We just did a couple in December. We've elevated our camp offerings and those kind of things. But the 2 I want to highlight are our Train Up program. Essentially, what this entails is we've identified individuals within the team or within the club, within a team, that we feel like maybe needs a little bit more of a challenge. They're getting a little bit comfortable within their context. Maybe they're really dominant because they're bigger, faster, stronger. How can we put them into another context and challenge them a little bit in a different way? It doesn't mean that they're fully moving over teams. It just means, hey, 3, 4 sessions. You're going to have a 3rd session this week with this older team, higher level team, whatever, to kind of give you a sense of maybe where you're at and expose you to a little bit of a higher level so that we can keep challenging individuals. And then goalkeeper training, I just had a call with Andreas today trying to continue to grow that. I think we're going to take it a step further in the spring. But Josue's been great, and we've offered that for the last couple of years. Let's keep, for sake of time, let's keep rolling here. Strategic plan number one was player development. So between curriculum, technical director, coach education, all of that, we've tried to elevate the level there. Facilities is another area that's really important, obviously, and with the growth that we showed before, you then have to say, well, if we have 400 travel kids and we have 1,100 annually rec kids, where do we put 1,500 kids to play soccer, right? And so clearly not at Charlestown Park right now with all the snow. A couple facets of this, and I kind of lay these out a little bit more on the next slide. A couple facets of this. We have a great relationship, as we have for a really long time, with TCHS. The challenge there is that we don't own it, right? We have a great relationship with Charlestown Park that I'm going to talk about how we're trying to kind of expand. But on top of that, the goal is how can we, hence a strategic plan into the future, how can we have long-term facility viability so that if we continue to grow, we can meet those needs and that facilities don't become a barrier to do that. So a couple of things that we've done, and I'm actually going to kind of start at the bottom and work my way up. We've continued to have conversations with University Valley Forge. We're renting more space from them than ever before. Renaissance Academy as well. We kind of do a shared usage, and we're sharing space with them more as well. But you notice in the middle, basically that's every governing body that touches Phoenixville. Within the last 2 years, we have presented to all of them in some way. Mike McGeehan's been really involved in that space, making those connections. But I think he or I or both, as well as Keith's been involved as well, have gone out as representatives of the club to basically say, here's who we are, here's what we're up to, here's what we need. Is there an opportunity that we could have that at a park facility, or we're using some of the resources from some of these, municipalities locally? I would say across the board, the response has been very positive. I would say pretty consistently, the message has been, wow, we had no idea you were this big. My grandkid played, my daughter played, I used to coach. It's very consistently looked at in a very positive way. The club has looked at it positively. But as things go with local government or maybe any government, the timetable to actually have that conversation and see it come to fruition with a soccer field it could be a long time. And so we're trying to have those conversations and build the relationships, but nothing definitively at this point. So let me jump up to the enhancement part. 2 things that are kind of coming down the pike that we wanted to communicate and announce here. One is our clubhouse. If maybe you knew, maybe you don't know, the building that's on the corner by Charlestown, by the park that kind of butts up to the UVF soccer field. When the University of Valley Forge was a military hospital, that actually was the prison. And so we have all of our soccer balls stored in jail cells in the back of the building. It's a true story. But as you could probably tell as you drive by, the building is a little more dilapidated for us to use it for much more than that. Charlestown Township has graciously offered to partner with us to do some enhancements to that facility. If you drove by recently, you would know that we gutted it over the winter. I think 2 full dumpsters of just stuff, old soccer balls and all sorts of stuff got purged. It's looking much better in there, and so we're starting the process of the goal is to make it a functional space that can be used for meetings, parent meetings, board meetings, coaching staff meetings, those kind of things, some office space, and so that's what we're working toward, but we'll see how long it takes for us to get there. The other thing I wanted to highlight is an endeavor to enhance the Charlestown Park facilities. For anyone that's been at our fields the last 2 falls, particularly fields 2 and field 3, you would see that when it hasn't rained, it's gotten very dry, and we are not even training on the fields. But even just, I mean, Field 3 may have 14 to 16 games on a given weekend, and which is just a lot of wear and tear. And so we are progressing through a process to try to install to install irrigation on all the grass fields at Charlestown Park. It's a multi six-figure investment that would be made into the park facilities. We have, just to kind of give you an update, an engineer has been hired. We have renderings. We've talked to the township. It's just waiting on some permits at the moment to finalize that. There's not water at the park, so there's a couple stages of things that we have to do to actually get water back there to be useful. But we are progressing actively with the goal that the quality of the fields could be elevated, the durability of the fields could be elevated so that we can use them more. We're looking at it as a multi-stepped process. We'd love to get lights there as well, or extend lights along fields 1 and 3 so that we can actually use the fields for training sessions and be able to get a little bit more use out of that space. I will say this, as a part of that, we've discussed a capital campaign to help cover some of those funds, and so just something to stay tuned and keep an eye out. But we were hopeful to have a little bit more even definitive information by today, but it's in the works, and we're just waiting on some permits to come through. Last thing I would say on this, and then I'll keep moving, is we have explored acquisition. If you know anyone that owns a bunch of acres of flat farmland that you want to give us to use for soccer fields, we would love to talk to you after. But as you can probably attest, like, it is difficult to find space within Phoenixville. There's more and more houses getting built all the time. And so it is a challenge for us to try to find space that's flat, that isn't right up against houses where we're annoying people with the traffic, that we could potentially put lights, because a lot of the year we need light access. And so all that to say, we've been working with a realtor. We've done site visits. We even put in an offer on a property, and the owner decided to go a different direction with it. But it's something we're actively exploring as well. You know, I guess Phoenixville is the cool place to be or to live, as I'm sure you all can attest. And that's what the cool kids are doing, I hear. And so it makes it difficult for us to get space for soccer fields. Okay, let's keep rolling. Sponsorship fundraising. The next two categories will be a little bit less. On the next slide, I think the thing to highlight here is as of 2 years ago, we had started or had, I think we were a year or two into our spring golf outing. We've added on the soccer ball in the fall. And so we have 2 fundraisers that we've now run annually for the last couple of years, as well as we're in the middle of overhauling our sponsorship program for general sponsorships. As I'll talk about on a slide here coming up, these fundraisers represent a way for us to offset overall costs, to keep costs as reasonable as we can. Maybe your perspective is our travel costs are maybe already unreasonable, but they're actually a lot less than our competitors, and we want to keep them that way. It also helps us subsidize and provide funds for financial aid for families in need, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And so if you haven't been out and done one of these, I would encourage you. We'll probably open registration and finalize details for our golf outing soon. But the soccer ball was a great event to socialize and get to connect as a community. And that's one of the things that I'll go back to as well, which is where we started. We're a community soccer club. We want to meet the needs of our community. We want to impact the community through soccer. And so a part of that is we have to make sure that people can access it, that they can afford it. And so these events help us offset some of those barriers to allow people to be able to participate. Let's keep moving on. Next category is community involvement, right? So you can go to the next slide. This is one of the programs that we've been really proud of is our Barkley After School program. We've been running it for over 10 years, since 2015. Basically, we go to Barkley Elementary in the spring. There's a group of ESL kids. They've had to cap it at 30 kids, 4th and 5th graders. Usually it is in high demand. We walk down to Reeves Park and we just do free soccer for 6 afternoons in the spring. It's a great time. You can see this long caravan of kids walking down the sidewalk, getting ready to go play soccer, which is fun. And it's again, we've had players come out of this into our travel programming and rec programming and those kind of things. But it's a free after school programming that's just really fun. I think the other part that's really great about it is the Dre ran it last year. I ran it the previous 2 or 3 years. But the other really cool thing is our assistant coaches are all current players. So we have, I think last year, every single Friday that we ran it, we had like 10 middle school and high schoolers out helping and interacting with the kids, which is just great for them to think outside themselves and to have to give back and get involved and jump in. And it's a little uncomfortable at first, and you have to tell them, like, dude, go talk to these kids, right? Get involved. But by the end, it becomes something that's a little bit more comfortable. We try to not to have the fifth graders embarrass our older players too much when we jump in and play. But it's a really great time, and it's a program that we would love to expand as well, and are looking at whether that's to other schools, whether that's to a larger group, those kind of things, so we can continue growing that impact. Next slide here is this is literally just a laundry list of all the things that we've done in representing over the last 2 years within the community. A couple to highlight here. The different festivals, fairs, etc., are us just showing up at a community event. The Harris Hill one just happened this November, and it was a great time just connecting with people from the community. It happened to be a really warm November Saturday, and so that made it pretty great as well. But a couple others to highlight. We did a collaborative food drive with a lot of the other youth sport programs within Phoenixville, which was great, and this, I believe, was the first year that we did that. Each year we do a shoe and equipment drive, and that's again a great way for us to just gather stuff that doesn't fit your kids anymore and give them to someone else who can use them to help make it again affordable, accessible. I already talked about the Barkley After School program, and then Kate's Casa is a program or is a nonprofit within the community that we've been partnered with for several years now. Kate, the one who runs it, is fantastic. Her role, or her nonprofit, is basically as a liaison to non-English speaking, predominantly people within the community, to help get them resources. And so we do a sign-up day, which is a little chaotic, but is a great way to get them to understand and break the language barrier. We have a variety of translators there that just explain the program, help with the registration process, and those kind of things. And she's been a great asset to help us continue to grow soccer within the community as well. Jumping on to the next one here. This is something that I think the numbers speak for themselves. But just in 2025, we had around $56,000 in financial aid that was given out to kids within the club. It ended up impacting 256 total kids, right? So whatever that is, an eighth or something, 20% of our full overall membership had some kind of financial aid that this helped with. The split was almost exactly even between rec and travel, and so it's great that we're trying to meet those needs in either direction. But I think one of the things that is maybe missed or overlooked on when you see a slide like this is just some of the stories, right? It's we have a player who's now entering high school next year who I actually interacted with when he was in 4th grade at Barkley After School program. Had to get the teacher to help translate kind of what our programming was like. Joined travel soccer on a second team. He's now probably one of the best players on the black team at the age group, right? And has had financial assistance along the way to make it work. Has had language translation through Kate and others that have volunteered along the way to make it work. But now it's altered his trajectory, right, because of the financial aid that we were able to provide. Even just in the last year, unfortunately, we've had 2 different families that have had catastrophic home fires. And in both situations, I found out after the team had already pulled money together to give to the family. And we were able to come in as well and offer financial assistance for their fees, collect extra equipment, those kind of things in those scenarios. And so I think that's a distinctive that I'm proud of. It's not just about going on winning games and trying to be a great big soccer club, but impacting people through the community. And as I said, in both of those situations, the team had already jumped in to do that before I even found out about it. And so we'd love to continue growing this number. We'd love, as I say here at the bottom, we want it cost not to be prohibitive from a family or a child to be able to participate in soccer, which unfortunately as youth sports gets more and more expensive, that gets harder and harder for families. Okay, let's keep moving here. 3 more slides and then I'm gonna jump to the birth year change. So bear with me. 3 things to highlight here that I kind of categorize as club successes over the last 2 years. First one, if you want to jump to the next slide here. First one is some college recruitment. We actually are working on finalizing an event coming up to educate our players on kind of what's involved in how to get recruited in the college process. These are some individuals who just in the last couple years have gone on to play college soccer from here. Ella and Caroline were both 05 girls with us. Caroline's playing club soccer at Penn State in a really competitive club program. Ella's Jefferson team has been phenomenal the last 2 years, and she's gone on to regionals and the whole bit. And Jason just graduated actually last year, and I think got 4 or 5 starts as a freshman goalkeeper at a smaller NAIA school in the Midwest. And so it's been great to see. I think one of the challenges in the past when I first came to the club was players staying all the way through and players then getting those next opportunities. And so, you know, Ella, Caroline in particular started in our Pee Wee program and never left and went on and are getting opportunities to play at the next level as well. Next slide here highlights our 3 state cup wins last year, which was the most we've ever had in club history. We've never won more than 1 in a year, and we won 3 last year. 2014 boys, 15 boys, and 2012 boys. 2012 boys had an opportunity to go on to regionals as well and made it to the semifinals of regionals representing all of Eastern Pennsylvania. And so I sent this out via email, but we, Mike Carney and I were interviewed by Touchline Magazine, which is a publication that EPYS puts out. And I think the thing to emphasize here is like the goal was never to win 3 state cups, right? The goal was to invest and improve our programming and strive for excellence and impact our community. The 3 state cup wins was the byproduct of trying to focus on the foundation, and this is an outcome of our teams doing really well and excelling. And so it was a great couple days of tracking scores, and we had never had 3 teams make a final. All 3 teams won their final. We had never had a team win President's Cup, which is a higher level of state cup, and the 2012s went on and did that. And so pushing the level, especially at the higher levels, within the state cup competition on a state level. And then the last one here to highlight, which you probably just saw recently, is that we just found out 2 or 3 weeks ago that we were awarded as the EPYS, basically as the Club of the Year recipient. So every year they select a club from EPYS. I forget, there's some 200 clubs or something, because EPYS goes all the way past Hershey, all the way up past Scranton. And so Phoenixville Soccer Club, for the first time ever, was selected as the recipient this year. And I think, again, speaks to all of the foundation, the volunteers that are involved, the coaches that are involved, the investment over time. The first thing I did was individuals send an email to previous board members who invested time to get us to this point, right? It's not just the group that we have currently. It's been a lot of work to get to this point and lay a foundation for us to be recognized in this way. And so it's a great testament to a rec program, travel, and what we're doing within the community in particular. Okay, let's move on. And I'm going to grab a quick drink. So just hold for a second. All right, from the peanut gallery over there. Okay, here's the challenge with this. As I highlighted on the slide, right, the word change. This is a change, and change is difficult, and it's difficult for everyone in different ways. My goal in kind of broaching this subject is a lot of clubs are doing different Zoom meetings or sending out emails to try to explain it. I felt like you all deserved a face-to-face of us trying to kind of unpack what it means, how it impacts us, and what we're planning to do going forward in terms of next steps. And so that's the goal. I'll say this at the beginning, and I'll say it again at the end. The situation, or every family situation, is a little nuanced. The goal today is not necessarily to go into every nuance, but to just kind of unpack it generally, conceptually, so that hopefully you walk away more informed, hopefully a little bit more at ease with the change, but also an understanding of some of the things that we plan to do or the next steps we're going to take to try to help prepare for the tryout process coming in the next 3 months. So let's get rolling here. First thing to highlight is that we did not make this decision, right? This was a U.S. Soccer, all of the governing bodies within U.S. Soccer, which is U.S. Youth, U.S. Club, AYSO, collectively made this decision, right? I'm going to kind of talk through it here in a second. The chart on the right is what the age groupings are going to look like for next year. Basics of the change is that instead of teams being formed January 1st to December 31st, it's now going to be formed August 31st to the following July 31st. It will not have any impact on the current season. So if you're on a whatever U13 team right now, you will continue. It does not change anything for this spring. But when we have tryouts in probably April, May, our teams for 2026 to 2027 will be formed based on these new age groups. I will say this as well before we get to the next slide. This shift to birth year actually happened 10 years ago. I was at a club. I was the director of a club in Illinois when it happened, and so I don't know if I'm a sucker or what, that I have to do it now backwards again and go through it for another club. Anyhow, the decision has been kind of lingering for a couple years, but it was formally announced and is collective across all platforms. So all of youth soccer pretty much is going to this for the next year. On the next slide, you can see kind of some of the rationale for that was given. Now, I would say this as a caveat. You may look at this and go, like, for example, social dynamics, right? Aligning kids in a common grade and trying to more similarly align with an academic grouping, right? That might not be the case for you. Just like some of the benefits that they rolled out 10 years ago to switch the birth year change maybe wasn't a benefit to you and your family then, and maybe it's better now. But I'm just going to kind of roll through these, and these are generalized, but this is the rationale for why the change was made. Social dynamics to maximize enjoyment, so trying to get kids aligned. I would say firsthand, it is difficult. We hear all the time, I'm on my best friend's on my team in rec, and now you're splitting us up when we go into travel. Like, why can't we continue being on the same team? We're in the same class, we're best buds. Why can't we continue being on the same team, right? And so one of the goals with the change is to help grow the game, right? Grow soccer collectively, increase enjoyment, increase retention within the sport itself. And so the social element is a really important factor for that. Transition into competitive teams at U8, U9 is always tricky, and without, again, getting too granular, we often have players that go from playing 4v4 in U8 to playing 7v7 in travel without a step in between because of the way that they're not aligned. This is going to help aid in that transition all the way through. This is a nuance. Trap players is a nuance that maybe none of you have ever considered, but with the current groupings based on birth year, every year at U15, half of the U15 team, or 2/3 or whatever it breaks down, go into high school, and there's a portion that plays 8th grade. And so now their programming is a little bit challenged because we try to scale down for the high school, but now the 8th graders want more, and it creates a challenging dynamic. The same happens on the top end at U19. We have kids currently born August through December that all of a sudden don't have a team because all the rest of their team graduated the year before and they had another year of school, right? And so now this is going to be a little bit cleaner. Again, not for everyone, but for more. Hopefully this simplifies things, right? You're probably hearing this and going, this is anything but simpler. But the goal is, especially if you're new to soccer, that this becomes a little bit of a simpler process. And for us, a better alignment between rec and competitive programming, because our rec program has stayed school year, has stayed this grouping, whereas travel was birth, and now they're going to both be the same. Let's keep moving on here to the next. I included these things because I think it's important to maybe lay the foundation with this idea. So I want to begin with individual club needs, right? I'm going to talk about it more on the next slide as well. Just as there is now, there will continue to be the opportunity for clubs to shift or adjust and make decisions that are best for what they need. So we could combine two age groups, right? There's nothing against that. The challenge is just from our perspective, it's not ideal to have a younger team playing up at a higher age group if they don't have to, right? It's not as ideal developmentally. And so there is some flex that we are going to have, and I'll unpack a couple of those scenarios on the next slide. But generally speaking, the rule is you can never play down, right? So I have had, I don't know, a lot of people over the last 6 years that I've been here that, hey, I was born in December 31st at 11:55 at night. Why can't I just play right at the next birth year? Like, sorry, you now are officially probably the youngest person in your birth year, but we can't play you down, even though we probably can make an argument as such. And so there are flex that can be done up, but not down as we try to implement this as a club. I want to highlight this. So if you've never heard the phrase relative age effect, again, I'm not going to give you the whole lecture on what it means and physiological periodization and those kind of things, but I felt like this visual was helpful. And this is essentially the variance of the oldest player within an age grouping and the youngest player. And you would logically go, how is this relevant? The same thing is true, it's just shifting, right? The players born August 1st are older significantly than the player born on July 30th within that age grouping. The challenge is, and I want to highlight this last piece with prioritizing development, and that's exactly why across the board, we are going to try to place all of our players within their actual birthdays grouping, right? So the goal is not that we make super teams, we're not gonna keep the band together and try to keep teams together, because if we have, let's say, a player that was playing on whatever, U11, right? And they were born in October. Now all of a sudden, or November, December, whatever, yes, now they're staying at the same level again. They will stay U11 again for another year, but they will become one of the oldest on this graph instead of if we push them up so they could still play with their former teammates. Now they're not just playing against the same kids they were playing against. They're now playing against kids an additional 3, 4, 5 months older because of how the birth year changes, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So let's jump to the next one. Here's a couple of facets in terms of our perspective with player placement, right? So I already said this, players will be placed in alignment with the new age groupings. Some will repeat their current level, right? It doesn't mean that they're being held back. It doesn't mean that they're playing down. It just means that they're repeating because now what was U11 is different, and so they're playing U11 again, right? Or whatever that age group is. But I want to highlight a couple of these pieces. But before I do, I want to talk through, and I realize you probably can't read the graphic that well, but here's kind of the premise. When we look at development, right? So we talked about the facets that influence player development, but when we look at an individual player, the aspects that we want them to develop within, these are the 4 categories, right? So it's tactical, technical, physical, and psychosocial, right? There's a variety of names for that one as well, mental, social, etc. And I just want to kind of walk through it a little bit from our perspective. So the physical is the most obvious, right? If we don't align them with their actual August 1st to July 31st, there's a physical challenge that exists for most. Maybe not every single one. Maybe there's some kid who is massive and would fit in right perfectly with the older age group. but the way that they could impact a game and grow in confidence physically will be enhanced within their actual age group, right? The second here is I'll jump into technical, right? When we look at technical, it has to be connected to tactical, and that it doesn't matter if I can do a Rabona and 18 million scissors or step overs. It's the game implementation of them, right? Which entails a little bit of the position I'm playing, the confidence that I have, the role that I play within the team. And that's the part that I think is really critical and is the argument that I make to parents consistently is, okay, sure. Could your player make that higher level team, that older team? Could they be 1 through whatever, 18, 15, whatever the roster size? Yeah, maybe. But is the role the same, right? Do they still get to be a leader on the team because they're one of the older players? Do they step in as a vocal individual on the team? Are they going now, do they have an opportunity to go from outside back to center mid and they get more touches on the ball, they get more playing time, they play a different role? Does it enhance their perspective and development of the game tactically because now it's elevated them within their actual age group, right? And so just some of the reasons why, which brings me to the playing up policy. When I first came to the club, we put a policy in place in regards to how a player would be eligible to play up, right? So I'll give a specific example. Let's say that I'll use my son Rory as an example. Rory's 9, he's a 2016. If I wanted him to play at the next older age group, right? First of all, we'd have to consider all these facets where is it actually in his best interest. But what we didn't want is we didn't want it to be like, well, Rory's parent is the director of the club, and so he gets to do it, and somebody else gets to do it because they asked, right? And all of a sudden we're like making handshake deals, and it's just people advocating for the kid to play up because they think it's better. In my opinion, it's often like a long road, a long chase to nowhere, right? It ends up being over time catching up and being a negative thing. And so what we did was we wrote a policy, and the simple version of it is that in order for a player to be eligible to play up permanently, moved up on the higher level age group or older age group, they would not only have to be the best player or one of the best players in their age group, right? So Rory would not only have to be the best 2016, he would have to be invited. It's not up to the parent. It's up to us in our assessment, invited to the 2015 tryout, and he would have to be assessed in the top 3 of the 2015s, right? Because outside of that, it doesn't make sense for him to go from being one of the best players to being a peripheral player on an older age group just to say that he played on that age group, right? Here's the other facet of that, which comes back to what I said earlier with the train up policy. We try to subsidize in that space. So it's not an all or nothing, right? We could look at Rory and say, okay, he's not that, but he's somewhere in between. And so can we get him some training sessions with the 2015s? So we're recognizing that we need to challenge him a little bit more, but we believe that it's a deficit or would be problematic or not in his best interest to fully move him up an age group. I think the other piece of that, which is just a candid logistical one, is I always struggle with what if again, I'll use Rory, what if I move him up an age, but now I have to cut a true 2015 to make room for a 2016, right? That's a tough place to be when part of our goal is to get as many kids playing and enjoying competitive soccer as possible. And so in the last 5 years, we've had one player that played up, right? And it was for 1 year as kind of a stopgap. Due to needing it developmentally, right? Outside of that, which is what I want to get into with some of these nuances here, and this obviously does not involve every single nuance for every situation, family, whatever. We have had combined age groups on the girls' side, right? Because it's a numbers situation, especially as they move into 11-11 and we need more players, where we've needed to combine age groups to be able to form a team and offer a team. Is it optimal developmentally? No. But it's better than them not having an opportunity to play. And so we've then, as we've talked about before, adjusted the level competitively and tried to meet their needs still, even though we've combined age groups. One of the challenges, and I'll just be really candid, in the birth year or the shift in age groupings for next year is that it's, especially on the girls' side, it's varied, right? There's a couple age groups where, for whatever reason, there are not that many girls playing within that new age grouping, and so we anticipate there being a little fluidity on the girls' side so that we can keep teams and form teams, right? So that is a little bit of a nuance. On the oldest side as well, so the 2010 boys will be one of our older boys teams next year. We don't have a 2009 boys team to push down into the 2010s, right? And so there's probably going to be a number of kids that have to play up so that we can form teams, and we're assessing that already now. And then grade alignment, and I'll just say this. We recognize that one of the challenges, and I would say U.S. Soccer was vocal about this as well. U.S. Soccer originally came out, and their the date was September 1st. Then they came back out and said, we actually have recognized that to get the majority of alignment with schools throughout the country, August 1st is the better date, and they adjusted the date. The challenge within Phoenixville in particular is the school district policy is that you can go into the older grade, even if you have, I think it's all the way through a date in October, right? And so it's into the fall. And so we are very aware that there's a number of families, we've already spoken to a couple of them, that it's a challenging space because if the goal is for them to play with their grade, their birth date does not align for that to happen, right? And so the goal is for us to try to have individual conversations with those families because the relative age effect is still a thing, right? It's still real for that kid. And so playing at their actual level of their birth is probably an advantage to them if we're just looking singularly at player development. When we look at the overall experience, maybe not, right? And so that's something that we're aware of and we're going to work through as we progress. Let's jump over to the next. I think I have 2 more slides, so just bear with me. 3 more. So the process here, right? So I kind of referenced this already. For the vast majority of players, they'll be assessed and placed based on the new age group. For a limited number of unique scenarios, we'll have a personal conversation. I would just want to clarify a couple things. We want to have conversations. If it's a player that is moving up, we're initiating that conversation, right? So it's not something that you can submit a form online and you get the chance to be considered for your kid to play up, right? We're assessing that as part of our total assessment of the club. However, we recognize that, and I said this at the beginning, I'll say it again, the reality is you are in this room because you care about the experience that your child has, right? That they're your pride and joy. You love watching them play the game. You want them to be successful. We want them to as well, right? We want to partner with you. It's important for us. And so we want to try to approach this with hopefully some empathy and understanding to recognize that the situation may be varied. So we're open to the conversation, but if it's a scenario of them getting invited to play up, again, I would say the numbers are going to be pretty low of a number of kids that are going to be moved in that direction. Let's keep rolling through. Let's jump to the next one. I already said, so I'll just, you don't have to go back, but let me just say relative to that one. A question I've been asked multiple times as we approach this is, will I have the same coach next year? I think the thing to highlight is, again, it's not like, I've only coached the team for 1 year. I'll coach them again next year. So take my 2012s. Right? Do I have to pick which half of the team I like better, right? And I coach that half next year or the other, right? Which 2 of them are in the room, so I won't tell them which side I would pick. But what we're going to try to do is look at the whole picture to say, here's our coaching staff, here's the teams we're forming, here's their needs, here's the skill sets of those coaches. Where does it make sense, right? So for a lot of kids, way higher than usual, you're going to be getting a new coach next year. That's just the way it is, right? But we want to be conscientious of kind of reassessing those placements as we go. Last 2 slides here. I put this together just to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and be clear about some of the challenges. You maybe have a different challenge that isn't on this list, but I think it's important that you're thinking through some of these things and hopefully having a conversation with your child to say, hey, here's what's coming, right? This is what we anticipate. These are some of the challenges coming, and so that we can try to be as prepared as possible. I'm going to start on the left side, right? So for the player, there's a social element, there's a familial element, there's a familiarity, there's a friendship, right? And now all of a sudden, we may be taking two best friends and moving them to different teams. That's a challenge. We understand that the social part is a really important part of why kids enjoy it, why it's fun, why they play in the first place, and that's a challenge that we're aware of and recognize. Here's another thing, right? And I'll use Rory as an example. Rory's currently on the 2016 black team, right? There's now 2015, young 2015 boys pushing down into the grade that he, or the level that he will be on next year, right? So the current 2015s, if they were born August through December, because Rory is an older 2016, they will be on the same team next year, yeah? There's a very real possibility that a player, could be Rory, could be others, that were on a black team, don't make a black team anymore because the quality of the players from the older black team or even the older white team, right, push down, and they now have the relative age effect advantage of being however many months older, and that's going to be a challenge, right? So that could be a great opportunity for some of our families where they're at a really strong age group, and which in this example, the 2015 boys white is one of our stronger white teams. And maybe they actually now make a black team because they get to play at their actual grade, right? The opposite could be true where Rory, for example, maybe all of a sudden has older kids that he's playing against, and it shifts, right? And so one of the things I think it's important that we're aware of is that kind of expectation where there's a lot of kids in the club that have been on a black team or a white team for a number of years, and now that's going to change, right? Role position within the team, we've talked about that a little bit already. There's going to be some social dynamics. If you are doing a PhD in sociology, now would be a really interesting observation to see how roles change, leaders change, key voices change within teams. Relationship with a coach, right, that we already talked about. Now all of a sudden you had a great relationship with whoever. Coach Nakeem, Coach Trevor, whoever it is, and now a higher percentage of our teams are getting a new coach. And then just the relative unknown, right? It's a change. You're going into a different experience. And I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot is families coming back because they kind of know what to expect, right? I had a great experience last year with this group of kids, this group of families, this coach. We loved it. Our whole family loved it. We enjoyed the banter on the sideline, whatever. Now all of a sudden, those facets are changing, and it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment in that process, right? We feel confident that we can still offer the same quality of experience, but it's going to be with some different people, and that is a challenge. I put this side just for a little perspective and maybe even a little grace in us as we navigate it, because it's challenging for us as well, right? Again, it's a decision that we did not make. No one called me to cast a vote. And so just a couple things to be conscientious of, right? We're going to try to be empathetic for every scenario. But again, if you just look at that we have 400 competitive kids in the club, that's a lot of parent conversations that we anticipate having over the next couple of months, right? Not saying that all of them are going to talk to us, but that's a challenge. Numbers to form teams. It's always, even in a normal year, there's a little bit of, do we have enough for a third team? Do we have enough for a second team? Where are we at? Can we take the risk? Blah, 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 right? Now that's all even more askew because there's no baseline expectation of what is carrying from this year into next year. We're essentially reassessing the entire player pool, which we do to a degree, but we often enter a tryout, and I'll use Ben since he's sitting here, where we go, Ben's one of the best, he's a starter on the 2012 Black. I don't really need to see Ben again. I've seen him all year, right? And we feel confident that he's going to make the team again next year. The difference now is if we are combining age groups, it's not apples to apples anymore, right? It's this other group of kids merged with this group of kids, and we've never seen those two groups of kids together. And so now we, in a lot of ways, have to kind of reassess all of our players, which we've kind of started doing through conversation, coach evaluations, those kind of things. But now it's the merger of all those, which becomes a little more precarious. Placement of coaching staff, we talked about already, and then clear communication, which is a challenge, right? And we're trying to kind of kickstart that process with this here today. Next slide. So, couple details that I want to highlight in just kind of next steps, right? So we actually talked about here at this setting doing an open mic and those kind of things, and felt like it's probably not the right environment to get into the minutia of your situation as it relates to this change. And so here's kind of some steps that we're planning on so that you kind of have a scope going forward. We're going to set up Zoom calls throughout February. You should be getting an email probably early next week with the schedule of those Zoom calls. The goal is to just have an open conversation around the birth year change. It's going to be focused at different age groups, but we're going to try to unpack some nuances, what to expect, answer questions that are a little bit more specific in those environments. There may even be some specific teams that we jump on as we work through the process and do on a team-by-team basis. One of the things that we would ask is that the conversations you have are with a director, so Andreas, Trevor, or myself. The reason for that is not that we don't trust our coaches. The reason is that the coaches only have the perspective of that team, right? And it's hard for them to understand the larger age group, the larger age group above, below, etc. And so if you would like to have a specific conversation, I actually just had a parent today ask me to set up one. We'd love to. We're happy to have the conversation, but please set it up with one of the three of us. In early March, we have earmarked a week. I'm hopeful to finalize the exact schedule here soon, but we're actually going to take a week of training and have teams train with the age grouping that they will be in next year, right? And so instead of Rory coming with the 2016 boys, he's going to come with the U11 for next year. We'll communicate kind of who goes where, etc. But one of the goals is that hopefully it eases some of the social pressure, right? Where, oh, I know that kid. Oh, I go to school with them. Oh, this team is actually better than I thought it was going to be, right? And hopefully make that a little bit more comfortable for kids as they enter the tryout process. We don't have tryout dates finalized exactly yet, but anticipate that they will be in April as they were last year. Last couple slides here, and I will stop talking. Couple pieces, right? So actually 2 years ago, this list was a long laundry list, and we needed board members and all these different roles. One of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is try to create kind of committees and smaller groups. So let's say you wanted to get more involved, but you couldn't commit fully to being on the board. We'd love for you to get involved. A couple of key categories here. Facilities, it's less about, Keith does a great job of kind of overall maintaining facilities and moving forward. There are tasks along the way of filling up sandbags or pulling nets off goals or those kind of things that we would love to have some assistance with, as well as if you have experience in project management, especially for some of the projects, like I said, getting water to Charlestown Park coming up. Capital campaign / fundraising is a space that we'd like to kind of step into and would love some people that are experienced there. Sponsorships, I already talked to a couple individuals several months ago, and I'm going to have some more concrete information on that. Grant writer, there are a number of grants out there, and we've started applying for some. I just actually applied for one this week, but we know there are more that we could be eligible for, but there's a certain fine art to writing grants, and so if you have experience in that, we'd love some help. Community involvement as well. If there's ways that you think, even though we had quite a list of ways that we've been involved, I would love to get to a place where all of our competitive teams are out in a soup kitchen, out doing different things within the community and trying to impact the community and have that experience. And so if there's other ways that you feel like the club could help impact the community, please reach out and let us know. We've literally entertained everything you could possibly imagine. Teams maintaining and pulling weeds from a community garden to everything else. And so we'd love to continue trying to do that to impact the community in the best way possible. Last pieces here as we wrap up. Would love to have you follow us on social media if you haven't yet. Next slide is just a thank you to Journey Church. They were our host 2 years ago and again tonight, which is great. It's a great professional space to sit and be able to present the information that I know parking was a little tricky today, but hopefully is accessible, and they've been great hosts yet again. I want to highlight as well our volunteers. Between board, rec coaches, snack shack, team managers, we have well over 200 people that volunteer at the organization every year. And so we quite literally would not be able to do all of what we just talked about without those individuals. And many of you are in the room, whether it's, again, team managers or board members or other individuals that have served in different ways. And so thank you, right? It allows us to make that connection. At the end of the day, the thing I tell our coaching staff all the time, and I think is true of the volunteers as well, is like, I can't be the one to go out and interact with every kid, right? I can't be the one to make sure that they have a great experience. It comes down to these individuals providing those touch points, making those connections at a grassroots level to really impact the community, and we're really grateful for that as well. I think that's my last slide. Maybe there's a thank you. Yeah. So again, thank you for coming. I'll just say a couple little pieces here. Again, if you would like more information, Birth Year Change, Trevor, Dre, and I will hang out a little bit up here and can answer some of that tonight, or we'll have the Zoom calls, individual meetings, etc. coming up. Board members are hang out up here as well. If you'd like to come up, chat, questions, those kind of things, would welcome that as well. And outside of that, I would just say thank you for being here, right? I appreciate the investment. I would love to in the future even fill this room, but we feel, as I said at the beginning, that it's important that we're transparent about what we're doing, right? You're spending your hard-earned money on our programming, and we want to show what we're trying to do to make it the best experience possible and to impact the community as an organization. So thank you for being here and investing the time to be here, and please reach out if you have any questions, want to volunteer, etc. going forward.